In the most luxurious restaurant in Mexico, the young waitress froze when she saw her ex-husband blocking the back door with a twisted smile and making a gesture that indicated he would harm her little daughter. Cornered among the indifferent gazes of the elite, she had only one option. In a moment of desperation, she lunged straight at the table of the powerful millionaire and did something that would change their lives forever. No one knew it was a cry for help, but no one imagined that this kiss of survival would drag them into a dangerous agreement where the heart would be the deadliest trap. Before everything turns upside down, tell us from where you are following us and prepare to dive into a story where a single wrong choice is enough to change everyone's destiny. That night, the weight of the silver tray seemed to have multiplied. Emily Carter, a waitress, had to make an effort to prevent her fingers from trembling as she moved through the main hall of Phoenix, the cold marble floor reflecting her small figure, contrasting strongly with the opulence of the most exclusive restaurant in Polanco, Mexico City. 6 hours straight moving in cheap shoes had left her feet numb, but that physical pain was nothing compared to the invisible pressure squeezing her chest. At 26 years old, Emily felt much more mature. She stopped for a moment in the transition area between the kitchen and the dining room and took a deep breath in secret. Before her eyes was another world full of millionaire stories. The brilliant crystal chandeliers illuminated expensive evening dresses, diamonds shining on the ladies' necks, and glasses of wine that were worth a whole month's rent for her. The polite laughter, the soft clinking of cutlery against fine porcelain, created a soundtrack of wealth to which she would never belong. Emily, concentrate. The soft but severe reprimand from Mr. Robert, the restaurant manager, resonated right beside her. Mr. Robert narrowed his eyes as he looked at her, pointing to the lock of hair falling over her forehead. Look at yourself. You look like you came out of a disaster. Fix yourself right now. The customers at table number 2 are waiting for the wine. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Robert. Emily hurried to push the hair away from her face, adjusting the hem of her uniform, which was already a bit worn. Despite the fatigue, her natural beauty showed through. She didn't dare complain she needed that job. Lily, Emily's daughter, needed new shoes for the next winter, and the landlady had threatened to evict them if they were late one more week. The name Lily passing through her mind comforted her a little, her reason for living. Emily took the bottle of red wine, forcing a professional smile to serve. She moved skillfully, becoming an invisible shadow, attending to the elite's orders without them having to bother looking her in the face. Suddenly, a smell of cheap tobacco reached her nose, dissipating the luxurious aroma of essential oils in the restaurant. Emily stopped dead in her tracks. A cold sensation ran down her back. Her instinct told her something was wrong. Richard turned his head toward the back door, the one reserved for delivery staff. There, leaning against the doorframe with an arrogant expression, was Richard, Emily's ex-husband. He wore a worn leather jacket, completely out of place in that luxurious setting. His bloodshot eyes stared at her fixedly as if she were his target. Emily felt her body tense. Richard smiled with a grimace, revealing his smoke-stained teeth, and said, he didn't speak loudly, but they were close enough for her to read his lips. He raised his hand, greeting her mockingly. "Hello, darling," he murmured. "Have you finished working? Come out for a moment to talk." Emily shook her head gently, her eyes begging him to leave, but Richard didn't care. He tilted his head, his gaze becoming unpredictable, but he raised his hand to the height of his neck, making a gesture, and then pointed into the distance toward the humble residential area where she and her daughter lived. "Lily," he whispered, his smile turning twisted. "The girl is waiting for Dad." Fear exploded in Emily's chest. He dared to mention Lily. He had discovered her new whereabouts. She looked around for help, but Mr. Robert was busy greeting an elderly couple in the corner of the room. The security guards were at the main door, too far to notice the intrusion from the back door. She was completely alone. Richard lost patience, detached from the doorframe, and began taking large strides toward the main hall, passing through the tables, ignoring the disgusted looks from the diners. He approached her, bringing with him a silent threat. "Emily," he shouted, no longer keeping up appearances. "Don't make your acquaintances wait, or do you want me to draw attention here?" His coarse shout caused a stir in the silent Phoenix. Everyone started turning to look. Emily backed away, her back hitting the edge of a table. She was cornered. He would try to take her, blackmail her, or do unacceptable things to her like before, and then Lily. No, she couldn't let that happen. Emily's panicked gaze met that of the man sitting at table number 7. It was the customer she had just served, Gabriel Castle, a powerful businessman. Gabriel was sitting alone, completely apart from the noisy crowd. His charcoal grey suit, impeccably tailored, hugged his broad shoulders. He was looking at his watch with a cold and authoritative face that radiated absolute control. He seemed like an unbreakable fortress in the midst of the crisis. Richard was already very close, his hand delving into his jacket pocket where something protruded. At the height of desperation, a bold idea surged in Emily's mind. She dropped the tray, the clang. The silver tray and the expensive bottle of wine fell to the marble floor. The thunderous noise of the breakage startled everyone. Richard stopped by reflex. Taking advantage of that second of astonishment, Emily shot out, not fleeing through the door, but running straight toward table number 7. She arrived next to Gabriel just as he raised his head at the noise. He didn't have time to understand what was happening when Emily had already grabbed the hem of his jacket firmly, leaned in, her agitated breath hitting his face, her eyes wide with plea and panic, although at that moment, her natural beauty still shone. "Save me," she whispered, her broken voice barely audible to the two of them. "Please, just this once." And before Gabriel could react or push her away gently, Emily stood on tiptoe, pressing her lips against his. It was a fierce, trembling kiss of survival, full of anxiety. She clung to his shoulders like a shipwrecked person finding a life preserver, closing her eyes tightly to escape reality. The entire Phoenix restaurant fell silent. Gabriel was stunned, his dark eyes wide open, looking at the strange woman kissing him. The wine glass in his hand still floated in the air. A few steps away, Richard was paralyzed, his face red with anger and surprise, his fists inside his jacket pockets clenched. Time stopped. Emily's fate now hung on this unknown man's reaction. Would he push her away gently in front of everyone, or would he become her protective shield? She held her breath, waiting for the verdict, their lips still joined. 1 second stretched like a century, and Gabriel felt the intense tremor transmitted from the hands clinging to his jacket. This woman's breath was rapid, agitated, and smelled of extreme desperation. This wasn't a joke or flirting, it was a cry for help. A man's instinct with experience in the business world told him something was wrong. He glanced quickly over Emily's slim shoulder. A few meters away, Richard was paralyzed, his face twisted with contained anger, his hand still inside the jacket pocket in a threatening and silent way. Gabriel made a very quick decision. Instead of pushing her away gently, he set the wine glass on the table, his large hand encircled her waist, pulling her closer to him, transforming the awkward and desperate kiss into a perfect performance of passionate lovers, opening one of the most unexpected romantic stories. "You're late, darling," he whispered in her ear as the kiss ended, his voice loud enough for those around to hear, but his gaze was cold and warning. "I've been waiting for you." Emily opened her eyes wide, stunned, looking into Gabriel's dark and deep eyes, unable to believe he was playing along. Even in that difficult situation, her beauty surprised him. Richard backed away a step, the arrogant confidence from before vanished, and then he looked at Gabriel, the man radiating power and wealth that he would never dare touch, and then at Emily, protected in his arms. He gritted his teeth, murmured something unpleasant, and turned abruptly, quickly exiting through the main door, disappearing into the night. As soon as Richard's figure disappeared, the atmosphere around Gabriel changed. He released Emily's waist immediately, as if he had touched something hot. He stood up, adjusted the wrinkled hem of his jacket, his gaze returning to its usual coldness and distance. He grabbed her elbow, not roughly but firmly, quickly leading her toward a hidden hallway that led to the back garden, away from the curious looks and murmurs of the diners. "What have you just done?" Gabriel's voice was grave but authoritative when they reached a solitary place. He crossed his arms, looking at her with a questioning expression. Emily leaned against the cold stone wall, her legs trembling so much she could barely stand. The adrenaline had dissipated, leaving exhaustion and naked anxiety. "I'm sorry," she stammered, tears beginning to well up. "I had no other choice. He is my ex-husband. He is a person with inappropriate behaviors. He threatened to harm my daughter if I didn't give him money." Gabriel frowned and looked at the woman in front of him, her waitress uniform stained, her calloused hands interlaced, and her eyes red from fear. However, her natural beauty couldn't be hidden. She wasn't lying, he could feel her desperation. "He's already gone," he said, his voice softening a bit but maintaining distance. "But do you know the problem you've just caused me? I'm a businessman, not a savior." I know, Emily felt repeatedly, wiping her tears with her hand. "I swear I won't bother you again." I just needed him to see, so he would think I have someone protecting me, just for tonight. Suddenly, the ringtone of the phone sounded from the inner pocket of Gabriel's jacket, interrupting her. He frowned and pulled out the phone. The screen showed 2 words, Mom. Gabriel exhaled a long sigh, his face tensed in a strange way. He raised his hand, indicating to Emily to be silent, and answered the call. Gabriel, Mom. Emily resonated the sharp voice of Helen Castle, Gabriel's mother, so loud that Emily, a meter away, could hear it. I hear you're at Phoenix. Don't tell me you're eating alone again, right? The blind date this weekend is the most important event of the year. Little Lucy Montgomery has just returned from Paris. You have to meet her. Stop avoiding it. The reputation of this house is becoming a laughingstock because you remain single. Well, Gabriel rubbed his temples, his eyes accidentally meeting Emily's, who was huddled in the corner of the wall. An idea flashed in his mind, bold but it could solve both their urgent problems. I'm not eating alone, Mom, said Gabriel on the phone, his tone changing completely, becoming calm and sure. I'm with my girlfriend. The other end of the line fell silent. Emily also opened her eyes wide, holding her breath. Girlfriend? Girlfriend? Helen's voice rose in surprise. What are you saying? Who? How long have you been hiding this from me? She's here with me, Gabriel continued, lying without blinking, his eyes fixed on Emily as if evaluating a potential. You'll meet her this weekend at the party. I'll bring her. He hung up before Helen could ask more questions. The space fell silent. Gabriel approached Emily and said, this time his gaze no longer of sympathy or annoyance, but the calculation of a businessman seeing an opportunity. What's your name? He asked. Emily Carter, she responded with a trembling voice, not understanding what had just happened. All right, Emily, Gabriel nodded. You need protection from that ex-husband with inappropriate behaviors, and I need a shield to escape my mother's marriage arrangements. We can help each other. Emily was stunned. What do you mean? I'll pay all your debts, hire bodyguards to protect your daughter 24 hours a day. That ex-husband won't dare approach you or your daughter within a 100-meter radius, said Gabriel quickly, with a decisive tone as if closing a contract. In exchange, you'll have to do something for me. What thing? Emily's heart pounded. The offer was too tempting but also too suspicious. Act as my girlfriend, said Gabriel with a penetrating gaze, fixing his eyes on her. This Saturday night, you'll come with me to the family party. You'll be the reason I reject that arranged marriage. Emily backed away, shaking her head. No, I can't do it. I'm just a waitress. I know nothing about your world. They'll discover it immediately. You acted very well out there, right? Gabriel smiled with a grimace, remembering the kiss from before. You don't need to be anyone, you just need to be the woman I choose. I'll take care of everything. Clothes, makeup, script. He took another step, shortening the distance between them, his voice grave and persuasive. Think about your daughter, Emily. How much longer can you avoid that ex-husband with your waitress salary? One day he'll find you, or worse, find the girl. Do you want to bet your daughter's safety? The name Lily once again broke down Emily's defenses. The image of Richard standing at the back door with a hostile smile appeared in her mind. She had no money, no power. She was on the edge of the abyss, and this man was offering her a rope. Although that rope might lead her to a new environment, at least it would help her escape her current worries. Emily took a deep breath, looking directly into Gabriel's eyes. The fear in her eyes gradually gave way to a mother's determination. Do you promise you'll protect Lily? She asked with a soft but firm voice. I swear on the honor of the Castle House, Gabriel responded without hesitation. All right, Emily nodded. I accept. Gabriel extended his hand. Deal done. This Saturday, you'll enter my world. Prepare yourself, Emily. My family is much more challenging than your ex-husband. The next morning, while the faint rays of sun filtered through the curtains of Emily's small apartment, a shiny black limousine stopped noisily in front of the old apartment building. The soft but imposing sound of the luxurious car's engine was completely out of place in the humble neighborhood, attracting the attention of neighbors preparing to go to work. Emily came out the door with her hand clutching her old worn bag, her palms soaked in sweat. Despite her simple appearance, her delicacy made some turn to look at her. She had left Lily with Mrs. O'Connor, the neighborhood nanny, the night before, lying that she had a special work shift. She didn't dare tell the truth was too unbelievable for anyone to accept. But the impeccably uniformed driver got out, opening the car door with a respectful attitude but with an undisguised curious look. Emily lowered her head, quickly getting into the car, trying to make herself as small as possible in the soft leather seat. The car started, taking her away from her familiar world, crossing busy streets, entering the wealthy outskirts of Mexico City, and gradually, tall buildings appeared, villas with high and closed walls. This was truly another world, one of those millionaire stories she had heard. When the huge iron gate of the castle mansion opened, Emily held her breath. It wasn't a house, it was a fortress, a modern castle with white stone walls, meticulously cared-for gardens, and an impressive fountain right in front of the main lobby. "Please, Miss Carter, get out," said the driver when the car stopped. Emily got out, her legs trembling on the cobblestone patio. The large wooden door opened. Sebastian, the castle house butler, was there. Sebastian, with his slicked-back shiny hair, wore a tailcoat. "Welcome, Miss Carter," said Sebastian, his voice cold and mechanical as if programmed. "Mr. Gabriel is waiting for you in the makeup room." Sebastian turned and left without waiting for her response, the sound of his shoes hitting the shiny marble floor. Emily followed him hurriedly, feeling like a stranger entering forbidden land. The soft aroma of lavender essential oil in the air was luxurious but suffocating. They passed through long hallways adorned with large oil paintings and exquisite sculptures. Finally, Sebastian stopped in front of a white double door, opened it, and gestured for her to enter. The spacious room was flooded with natural light. In the center, there was a row of large illuminated mirrors, surrounded by dozens of clothing racks, shoe shelves, and dressing tables full of cosmetics. A group of people waited there. A blonde woman, the lead stylist, a man with red-framed glasses, and a young woman with a notebook. They all turned to look at Emily when she entered, their eyes scanning her cheap clothes, her hastily tied hair, and her old sneakers. No one said anything, but that silence was stronger than 1,000 reproaches. "Is this her?" asked the lead stylist first, with her hands on her hips, her voice full of skepticism. "But is this the person Gabriel wants us to transform into his girlfriend in 48 hours? She approached Emily, lifting her chin with 2 fingers, turning her from side to side as if examining a product. Despite her appearance being obscured by fatigue, the woman recognized Emily's hidden beauty. "Dry skin, very dehydrated," she murmured, wrinkling her nose. "Dry hair, and look at these hands." She took Emily's hand, turning the palm upward, and said, the scars from calluses from carrying and scrubbing were clearly visible under the bright lights. "How are we going to hide these manual worker hands? Silk gloves would seem very inappropriate this season." Emily withdrew her hand, her face red with shame. She interlaced her hands, hiding them behind her back. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "Don't apologize, cooperate," interrupted the man with glasses, the makeup artist, with a listless voice. "We have a lot of work to do. Look at this face, the bone structure isn't bad, but the eyes are too tired, looks like she hasn't rested enough. She also has to learn to walk," continued the lead stylist, pointing to her legs. "She walks as if carrying something heavy. Back straight, chin up. You're playing Gabriel Castle's girlfriend, not his household employee." Emily bit her lips, trying to contain the feeling of self-pity rising. She knew she didn't belong there. She knew she was just an ugly duckling trying to put on swan plumage. But she remembered Lily, remembered Gabriel's promise of protection. She took a deep breath, raised her head, and looked directly at the mirror at her own tired reflection. Yet, through the mirror, she could see the delicate features of a hidden beauty. "I'll do it," she said with a soft but firm voice. "Tell me what I have to do." At that moment, the room door opened again. Victoria Castle, Gabriel's sister, entered. Victoria was tall, wearing an impeccably tailored white business suit, her black hair tied in a bun that revealed a sharp and cold face. She had the same dark eyes as Gabriel. The entire room fell silent. The styling team bowed. "Miss Victoria." Victoria didn't look at anyone, her eyes went straight to Emily, sharp. She walked slowly around Emily, the sound of her heels echoing unpleasantly in the silent space. "So, this is the protagonist in my brother's new play," said Victoria, her voice soft but full of skepticism. She stopped in front of Emily, crossing her arms. "I'm Victoria, and I'll tell you straight. I don't believe in so-called love at first sight, especially when it appears just when my brother needs an excuse to evade his family responsibilities. Hello, Miss Victoria. I'm Emily. I don't care who you are, interrupted Victoria with an icy voice. I only care about what you want. Money, fame, or do you think you can use this Cinderella label to really enter the castle house? She approached, whispering in Emily's ear, low enough for only the two of them to hear. My brother has a habit of helping people in difficult situations, but don't confuse kindness with love. How much will they pay you for this role? Or are you dreaming illusions? Just when Emily was about to respond, the phone in her jeans pocket vibrated violently. She startled, backing away a step. She quickly pulled out the phone, intending to turn it off, but the message that appeared on the lock screen made her feel extreme tension. It was an unknown number, but the content clearly told her who it was from. Do you think you can escape me? I just passed by the park. Older Connor and little Lily are having a great time on the swing. The girl is wearing a pink dress, right? You're asking for trouble, Emily. The phone almost fell from Emily's hand. Richard was watching her daughter. He knew she wasn't home, but the fear squeezed her heart, but immediately after, it turned into an explosion of anger. She no longer feared Victoria, no longer feared these people's contempt. She had only one purpose: to protect her daughter. Emily gripped the phone in her hand, raised her head, and looked directly into Victoria's eyes. Her gaze burned, without a trace of shyness or fear. I don't need your brother's money, said Emily with a steely voice, each word clear and strong, making Victoria blink in surprise. I don't need fame or the Cinderella label you assign me. I only need my daughter's safety, and I'll do whatever it takes, even endure your disrespect here, to protect her. Do you understand? Victoria was stunned. She had never seen a woman in distress with such a resolute look. Silence took over the room. Enough already, enough. A grave voice sounded from the door. Gabriel had been there all along, leaning against the doorframe with his hands in his pockets, observing everything. He entered the room, his gaze sweeping over Victoria with a warning, and then stopped on Emily. There was a bit of surprise and a bit of respect lighting up in the depths of his eyes at her resilience and beauty. Victoria, she is my guest, said Gabriel with a calm but authoritative voice, and she's doing her part very well. Thank you, don't make her have a bad time. He approached Emily, placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling how her body trembled with anger, not fear. Rest, he said in a low voice. Tomorrow will be a long, very long day. With that said, he turned to the styling team that stood motionless. Do your job. I want her to be as dazzling as possible tomorrow night, not to hide who she is, but so she can walk with her head high by my side. Gabriel turned and left, leaving a room full of astonished looks. But in Emily's heart, the fear from Richard's message was still there, burning like an unquenchable fire. She looked out the window, where the sky was gradually darkening, wondering if the decision to enter this environment would really help her escape external worries. Saturday night, the castle mansion had transformed into a fortress of light. Luxury cars paraded through the grand entrance like huge golden beetles, leaving guests in their most splendid attire. Soft classical music echoed through the garden, mixing with the clinking of glasses and the laughter of high society. Emily was sitting in the car next to Gabriel. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her heartbeat. The sapphire blue evening dress hugged her body, the luxurious silk cold on her skin, enhancing her slender but seductive figure. The strange high heels, the carefully pinned hair, the subtle makeup that hid her fatigue, all transformed her into another person, a person she didn't recognize in the mirror, as if living in one of those romantic stories that only exist in dreams. A true beauty. Ready? Asked Gabriel without looking at her while adjusting his jacket cufflink. His voice was calm, but his hand gently squeezed hers, transmitting a bit of warmth. I have no other choice, right? Responded Emily, her voice a bit trembling but trying to sound firm. She looked out the car window, where photographers' flashes blinked ceaselessly. The car door opened. Gabriel got out first, then extended his hand to receive her. The moment Emily placed her hand in his and stepped into the light, she felt as if she had stepped onto a grand stage. All eyes turned to them. Curious, evaluative, envious. Her beauty was the center of attention. They entered the main lobby. The interior space was overwhelming with soaring ceilings decorated with Renaissance paintings and huge crystal chandeliers. In the center of the room, on a velvet red upholstered armchair that looked like a throne, was Mrs. Helen Castle. She wore a black velvet dress with a large pearl necklace, her platinum hair styled without a single strand out of place. Sitting there, majestic and cold, she received the respectful greetings of the guests. When her gaze met Gabriel and the woman by his side, the air around seemed to freeze. Gabriel guided Emily to approach. She felt every muscle in her body tense. "Mother," Gabriel bowed his head to greet her, his tone formal but distant. "Hello, I want to introduce you to Emily, my girlfriend. Mrs." Helen didn't respond immediately. Slowly, she raised a champagne glass, took a small sip, her piercing eyes scanning Emily from head to toe. That look wasn't curiosity but a thorough evaluation. Emily seemed to be stripping her of her expensive dress, her perfect makeup, to see her true essence, but still couldn't deny Emily's natural beauty. "Emily," repeated Mrs. Helen the name, her voice slow and melodic as if savoring a strange dish. "I don't remember you mentioning this name in any conversation about business partners or social friends. Where does she work?" The question came quick and sharp. Emily squeezed Gabriel's hand and said she knew this was the first test. "Pleased to meet you," responded Emily, her voice sounding clearer than she expected, though her throat was dry. "I work in the restaurant service sector." A soft laugh was heard from behind. Lucy Montgomery, the candidate to be the Castle House daughter-in-law, approached. Lucy was radiant in her gold sequin dress, her blonde hair loose. "Restaurant service sector," repeated Lucy, her voice so sweet it was uncomfortable, her eyes shining with mockery. She passed by Emily, deliberately ignoring the social greeting. "Gabriel, you're very funny. I thought she was the daughter of some food corporation. Turns out she's a waitress." Lucy turned to the crowd with a loud voice, feigning surprise. "Did you all hear? Gabriel's new girlfriend works in a restaurant. Lucy, surely she's a high-level manager, or is she a waitress?" The murmur began to rise like a hornet's nest. Covered smiles, looks of false compassion. Emily felt her cheeks flush. This public humiliation was more uncomfortable than Richard's threats. She wanted to flee, wanted to tear off the dress and return to her miserable apartment. But Gabriel's hand still squeezed hers, not letting go an inch. That firmness held her. Emily took a deep breath and remembered Lily, remembered why she was there. She couldn't let these people despise her so easily. A waiter passed with a tray of red wine. Emily gently extended her hand and took a glass. Her movements were fluid and precise, the result of thousands of hours working at Phoenix. She brought the glass to her nose, smelled it gently, and then swirled it so the wine evenly coated the crystal. "Chateau Margaux 1998, said Emily with a calm voice, looking directly into Luce's eyes. Aromas of black currant, ripe plum, intertwined with a touch of oak and tobacco smoke. An excellent bottle, but it needs to breathe at least 2 hours before serving to reach its peak." She took a small sip, smiling slightly. "Pity this bottle has only been open 15 minutes. The tannin is still a bit harsh. In a party of this category, I thought the subtlety would come from the smallest details." The atmosphere fell silent. Lucy was left speechless, the smile on her lips faded. She, who had been born in opulence but only knew how to drink wine like water, knew nothing of this knowledge. She only knew the price, not the value. "Mrs." Helen raised an eyebrow for the first time that night. Her look toward Emily changed a bit, no longer contempt but mixed with a hint of surprising interest at Emily's intelligence and beauty. "It seems you know a lot," said Mrs. Helen, her voice no longer as icy as before. "Not bad for someone from the service sector." Gabriel leaned in and whispered in Emily's ear, his warm breath brushing her ear. "Very well, you've surprised me, stronger than I thought. According to you, in this situation where Lucy intentionally humiliated her in front of the crowd, Emily should have endured in silence or responded intelligently. Leave your opinion below." Emily exhaled a sigh of relief, a small sense of victory ignited in her heart. But the joy lasted little. A male waiter figure passed by her side, leaned in, carrying a food tray toward the kitchen, but as he passed Emily, he intentionally bumped her shoulder, making the wine in her glass spill almost completely. "Sorry," he murmured but didn't stop. Emily turned abruptly, her heart stopping for an instant. She recognized that man. He wasn't a mansion employee. He was one of those who used to accompany Richard to the neighborhood where she lived. He turned, gave her a satisfied smile, a hostile smile full of hidden intentions. His lips moved without sound, but Emily clearly read each word. An acquaintance sends greetings. He's waiting for the next events. He disappeared behind the kitchen door. The wine glass in Emily's hand fell to the carpet. The small puff was absorbed by the music, but the red wine stain spreading on the white carpet was an ominous omen. Emily, Gabriel noticed her change, asking worriedly, "Are you okay? You're pale." Yes, Emily whispered, her voice trembling, clinging to Gabriel's arm as if about to fall. "He's here. Richard, he knows I'm here. He's snuck his people in here." Emily wanted to flee. Every cell in her body screamed alarm. Richard's people had disappeared through the kitchen door, but his presence was like a ghost lurking in that luxurious room. He was here. Richard had found her. "Gabriel, we have to leave, Gabriel." Emily squeezed Gabriel's hand, her nails digging into the expensive fabric of his suit. "Right now, please." Gabriel frowned, looking at her pale face. He didn't have time to ask more when a thunderous applause interrupted their conversation. The ballroom lights suddenly went out, leaving only a spotlight illuminating a small stage at the end of the room. Lucy Montgomery was there, radiant and triumphant like a queen who had just reclaimed her crown. Lucy held a microphone, her smile sweet but her eyes shining with coldness. "Distinguished ladies and gentlemen," Lucy's voice resonated through the speaker system, clear and completely artificial. "Before the party continues with the dancers, I have a small gift for the most beautiful couple of the night, especially for Gabriel's mysterious girlfriend." Emily froze. A cold sensation ran down her back. She looked at Gabriel, saw his jaw tense, his eyes fixed on the stage with extreme caution. "I know everyone is very curious about Miss Emily," continued Lucy, her voice becoming soft like velvet soaked in poison. "A talented girl, knowledgeable about wines, who appears next to the castle heir like a fairy tale. But all fairy tales have an origin, right? And I believe the truth is always the most valuable gift." She raised her hand, making a signal. The large screen behind her lit up. The first photo appeared. It wasn't the dazzling Emily in the sapphire blue evening dress of that night. It was the real-life Emily, Emily in a grease-stained waitress uniform, disheveled hair, bent over cleaning a dirty table in some miserable fast food restaurant before working at Phoenix. Her face in the photo was gaunt, tired, and exhausted. However, the delicate features of her face were still glimpsed. The murmurs began to rise like a swarm of bees. All eyes turned to Emily, examining her, mocking. The next photo. Her apartment, the peeling and damp walls, piles of unpaid bills scattered on the table, bank debt notices with red numbers enlarged on the screen. "Debts upon debts," commented Lucy with a falsely sympathetic tone. "What a pity, a young woman who has to carry so much." And then the third photo appeared, the photo that made Emily's heart stop. It was a file from a past incident, a photo of Richard with an unhappy expression, aggressive eyes, while being detained for disturbing public order a few years ago. Next to it in bold, "Former acquaintance with inappropriate behaviors, criminal record." And this, Lucy pointed to the screen, her voice becoming sharp. "A past full of challenges and problems, a person with criminal records, an illegitimate child." She looked directly at Emily with a triumphant smile. "Miss Emily, have you come here for love of Gabriel or because you need help to overcome your difficulties? Are you looking for a lover or an opportunity to change your life?" The entire room exploded. The murmurs were no longer whispers but open comments. "My God, I knew it. Just looking at her you can tell she's not from their class. Surely she's seeking to improve her situation. Poor Gabriel, being used. She even has a child. How worrying." "Mrs." Helen stood up abruptly, her face red with anger and shame. She looked at Gabriel, her eyes as if wanting to burn her son. "Gabriel, explain yourself right now. Is this the person you've brought to this house?" Emily felt as if she were in the middle of a storm. Her ears buzzed the words of contempt. The looks of disdain were like thousands of needles piercing her skin. She had tried with all her might, had strived to protect her last vestige of dignity, but now everything was exposed, displayed in the light for people to see. They didn't see her effort, they only saw her need. They didn't see the love she felt for her daughter, they only saw a single mother in distress. She turned to look at Gabriel. This was the moment he would let her go. This was the moment he would push her away gently to protect the castle family honor. Their agreement was for her to play a perfect girlfriend, not a public shame like this. Gabriel was there, his face hardened like a statue. He looked at the screen, then at Emily. His hand still held hers, but his fingers were cold. "Gabriel," whispered Emily with a broken voice. "I'm sorry." He slowly released her hand. The moment his hand separated from hers, Emily felt as if falling into an abyss. It was over her only protection had disappeared. She was alone amid the judging looks. Gabriel took a step forward, turning his back to her. He adjusted his shirt collar, took a deep breath, preparing to say something. Emily closed her eyes, waiting for the final verdict, waiting for the abandonment, waiting for the sad end of her brief Cinderella tale. Just as Gabriel was about to speak, a small but determined hand rested on his shoulder, stopping him. He turned, surprised. Emily had opened her eyes, her brown eyes no longer filled with tears of fear as he had imagined. Instead, deep in them burned a fire, the fire of indignation, of dignity repressed to the extreme, now exploding stronger than ever. And even at that moment, her sharp and strong beauty could not be eclipsed. "No," she said with a soft voice but loud enough for Gabriel. "You don't have to say anything. This is my confrontation." She passed by him, passed by the most powerful man in the room, the man she thought was her only savior. She no longer needed him to protect her. She didn't need him to justify or apologize for her origin. Emily went straight up to the stage, the sound of her heels resonating regularly and firmly on the wooden floor. She walked toward Lucy, who was there with a triumphant smile that hadn't yet faded. Lucy was stunned to see Emily approach, backing away a step by reflex, but Emily was faster. She snatched the microphone from Lucy's hand. "Thank you for the impressive presentation," said Emily into the microphone, her voice resonating throughout the grand hall, drowning out the background music and murmurs. Her voice trembled a little at first but quickly became firm and full of strength. She turned to look at the crowd below, hundreds of carefully made-up faces, dressed in expensive clothes, looking at her as if she were a strange creature. "That's right," exclaimed Emily, pointing to the screen behind her. "Those photos are real. I'm a waitress. I work 12 hours a day serving and cleaning to earn every penny. I'm a single mother. I have a wonderful 4-year-old daughter named Lily, and I have difficulties, very difficult for your standards." The entire room fell silent. No one expected the Cinderella with her notable beauty to dare admit the raw truth in such a public and proud way. "But I'm not ashamed," continued Emily, her voice breaking with emotion, but her eyes still burning. "I earn my living with my own sweat and effort. I don't steal, I don't cheat, I don't harm others to live. I've never lowered my value to get a comfortable seat in this world that only looks at appearances." She turned toward Lucy, who was now pale. "You say I'm pitiful. You mock my hard experiences. Maybe I've trusted the wrong person in the past and had to face the consequences of that choice with all my youth. But I think you are 1,000 times more lamentable than me, Lucy, because you have everything. Money, fame, beauty, but you lack inner depth. Lucy, you have to use contempt for others, digging into others' difficulties to elevate your own value. What do you have besides what your parents gave you? I have these hands and a mother's heart." Do you agree with Emily's words? In a society where money and status often decide everything, is dignity really more important? Share your thoughts below. Emily took a deep breath, looking toward Helen Castle. "I've come here tonight not for recognition, nor have I come to seek benefits from your son's leadership. I've come for an agreement with Gabriel, an agreement to protect my daughter from the man with inappropriate behaviors in that photo, the same one someone among you kindly provided information to Miss Lucy to humiliate me." The indirect accusation made Lucy startle, her gaze evasive. "And hello, I'm a mother," said Emily, her voice soft but deeper than ever, "and I'll do whatever it takes to protect my daughter. I'll fulfill my promise, and you keep your luxury without subtlety." She dropped the microphone on the floor. The small sound resonated like a period to the play. The atmosphere fell into complete silence. The waiters stuck to the wall looked at her with eyes full of admiration. Some gentlemen nodded, their looks changing from contempt to respect. Helen sat slowly in her chair, her hand trembling holding the wine glass. She looked at Emily no longer with hostility but with a complete re-evaluation of this woman, a woman who dared to stand tall in the midst of the storm, a beauty with extraordinary willpower. Gabriel was paralyzed. He saw Emily descend from the stage with her head high, the sapphire blue dress waving with each step. But in his eyes at that moment, she was no longer the poor waitress who needed help. She was more radiant and strong than anyone he had known. The emotion in his heart was no longer compassion or calculation but an intense, genuine feeling full of respect. This was the beginning of one of those romantic stories he had never imagined. "Emily," he whispered, about to approach. Crack. The thunderous sound of breaking glass resonated from the largest floor-to-ceiling window in the ballroom. A fist-sized stone was thrown with force, shattering the tempered glass, and the fragments scattered all over the floor. Next to the stone was a piece of paper tied. A gust of cold air seeped into the ballroom, bringing with it a smell of unease. And then a demented scream echoed from the garden, breaking the quiet night. "Give me back my wife, or I'll make a scandal here. I have the girl." Emily froze. It was Richard's voice, and he had just said he had the girl, Lily. Emily's heart-wrenching scream resonated, drowning out the panic screams of the scattering guests seeking refuge. She lunged toward the broken window, not caring about the sharp glass fragments piercing her bare feet. "Emily, stop!" Gabriel ran toward her, encircling her waist and pulling her back before she could jump out the window. "It could be a trap." "Let me go. He has the girl." "Don't you hear? He's already taken her." Emily struggled frantically, her nails scratching Gabriel's expensive suit, tears streaming down her face. "Richard, give me back my daughter, no." "Security team, block all entrances and exits, protect the guests," shouted Gabriel through his collar intercom, his voice sharp, showing the absolute authority of the house owner. "Call the police immediately." But it was too late to block. Through the large hole in the broken window, Richard jumped. He didn't come alone. 2 men accompanied him, wielding wooden clubs. Richard himself held a shiny metallic object, long and sharp, a large sharpened screwdriver. He stood there among the broken glass, panting like someone agitated, his bloodshot eyes scanning the luxurious room. His ragged clothes and sweat-soaked hair created a terrible contrast with the opulent surroundings. "Where is she?" he shouted, waving the screwdriver. "Where is that woman? You dare betray me. You dare hide my daughter." I'm here," shouted Emily, breaking free from Gabriel's hand and taking a step forward. "Here I am. Don't harm anyone." "Where is Lily? Where have you hidden her?" Richard saw her, the smile on his lips twisted. "Ah, here she is. Look at you, dressed in silk. You look like a high society woman." Although he said unpleasant things, Emily's beauty still caught his attention. He lunged. Gabriel tried to interpose between him and Emily, but Richard was quick as lightning. He didn't aim at Gabriel. He knew the weak point. He grabbed Emily's bare arm, pulling her hard toward him. The screwdriver tip was right at her neck. "Stop," he roared at Gabriel and the guards trying to lunge. "Whoever takes one more step, I'll harm her right here." The entire room fell silent. "Mrs." Helen brought her hands to her chest, her face completely pale. Victoria interposed to protect her mother, her hands trembling while calling the police. Lucy Montgomery had already hidden behind the bar a while ago. "Richard," Gabriel raised his hands to shoulder height, his voice grave and unusually calm, though his eyes burned. "Calm down. What do you want?" "Money." "I can give you whatever you want. Just let her go." "Money." Richard laughed forcefully, saliva splattering him. "I don't need your arms. I want my wife. I want my daughter. Tell me, do you think because you're rich you have the right to steal people's acquaintances?" He squeezed Emily's neck, choking her, her face red. "Tell me, have you told her that Lily is waiting for me in the car, huh?" "I just went to old O'Connor's house. That old woman is very stubborn, but I just had to threaten her a little to scare her." Upon hearing that, Emily's anger boiled inside her. The fear disappeared, giving way to a cornered mother's instinct. You lie. Yes, she owed despite her throat being oppressed. "Mrs. O'Connor would never let you take the girl. You're lying." "Check it." Richard dug the tip deeper into her neck. A small red line began to appear. "Open the door. Give me a car. I'll take this woman to pick up the girl, quick." Gabriel saw the red line on Emily's neck. His reason told him to buy time, but his heart shrank. He took off his jacket and threw it to the ground. He unbuttoned his tie, taking slow steps toward Richard. "All right," he said, Gabriel with his eyes fixed on Richard's. "I'll give you the car, but first you have to let her go. You can't drive if you keep holding her like that. Do you think I'm stupid?" Richard laughed disdainfully. While Richard focused on Gabriel, the main ballroom door suddenly opened. "Stop." An elderly but authoritative voice resonated. Everyone turned. Mrs. O'Connor was there, panting, her floral dress disheveled, and by her hand was Lily. "Lily," shouted Emily, tears welling up. "The girl is here," shouted Mrs. O'Connor, pointing at Richard. "He lies. He never touched her. The police are coming." Richard was stunned, staring at Lily, then at Emily. His plan had crumbled. He had bet on Emily's fear, but the truth had been revealed. "You tricked me, Emily," and he roared, turning toward Emily with a demented look. "It's all your fault." In the moment Richard lost concentration from the shock, Emily didn't wait for anyone to save her. She remembered all the pain and humiliation he had caused her for years. She concentrated all her strength in her teeth and bit hard on the arm holding her neck. "Ah!" shouted Richard in pain, releasing her by reflex. Emily used the heel of her shoe, which she hadn't fully taken off, to stomp hard on his foot, then ran toward Gabriel. Richard, crazed by pain and anger, wildly waved the screwdriver and ran after her. "I'll harm you." Gabriel didn't wait any more. He lunged like an arrow, interposing between Richard and Emily. He opened his arms, hugged her tightly, giving his back to the furious man. A dull blow resonated. The entire room fell silent. Gabriel groaned slightly. His body shook, but he didn't release Emily. He squeezed her more, whispering in her ear, "It's okay. Everything's okay." A stream of dark red liquid began to spread over Gabriel's immaculate white shirt, right on his left shoulder. "Gabriel!" screamed Emily heart-wrenchingly upon feeling the warm, wet liquid soak her dress. She broke free from his arms, seeing the red stains spreading on his shoulder. Gabriel staggered but stayed on his feet. Richard used his right hand, the uninjured one, to throw a powerful hook to Richard's jaw just as he tried to continue his aggression. The blow contained all his repressed anger. Richard, who was nothing more than a bully who abused women and not a fighter, was thrown backward, falling on his back to the stone floor. The screwdriver flew far away. Immediately, the Castle House security team and the police burst in. 4 large men immobilized Richard on the floor. He writhed, uttering insults, but couldn't escape the cold handcuffs closing on his wrists. The 2 men accompanying him were also controlled in the room's corner. "Catch him! Be careful! He may have sharp objects," shouted the police chief, giving instructions to his subordinates. Emily no longer cared about Richard trembling. She held Gabriel, tears streaming down her face. "God, you're hurt. Oh my God, it's bleeding a lot. Doctor, is there any doctor?" "I'm fine." Gabriel grimaced in pain but still tried to smile to reassure her. "It's just a scratch. The important thing is that you and Lily are safe." Mrs. O'Connor brought Lily running. The frightened girl burst into tears upon seeing the red stain. Emily knelt, hugged her daughter tightly, and then pulled Gabriel toward her so the 3 formed a unit. Meanwhile, in the room's corner, Lucy Montgomery tried to sneak away amid the chaotic crowd to escape. She covered her face, walking quickly toward the side door. "Stop there." Victoria's icy voice resonated. Victoria interposed in Lucy's path, phone in hand, showing an audio recording. "Where are you going, Lucy? The play isn't over yet." Lucy paled, stammering. What are you saying?" "I have nothing to do with it. I'm just scared and want to go home." "Really?" Victoria played the recording. Lucy's voice was heard clearly, sweet and cold. "I opened the back kitchen window for you. You know what to do. Enter, humiliate that woman, and if necessary, scare her. I'll transfer the rest of the money when you're done." The entire hall was shocked once more. Those who had laughed at Emily now looked at Lucy with disgust. You, Lucy trembled. "You trying to snatch the phone," but Victoria quickly pulled it away. "This is evidence of a crime, Lucy," said Victoria with a look full of contempt. "You're not only envious but also an accomplice to disturbances and assaults. The police will be very interested in this recording." Helen approached, looked at Lucy, whom she had once chosen as her future daughter-in-law, with deep disappointment and the anger of a betrayed clan head. "Helen, out of my house," said Helen with a low voice but resonating with authority. "And may I never see your face again at any high society event. Your name will be crossed off all guest lists from today." 2 police officers approached and read Lucy the arrest warrant on the spot. The haughty miss screamed and begged, but it was in vain. She was taken away along with Richard, who growled like a cornered man. Calm gradually returned to the room, though the atmosphere was still charged by the events that had just happened. Gabriel, with one arm provisionally bandaged by the medical staff, stood in the center of the hall. He made a signal for everyone to be silent. He looked at Emily hugging Lily tightly, her dress stained with his blood. "Listen, everyone," said Gabriel loudly, his voice firm and full of pride. "Emily Carter is not a contract girlfriend nor a lucky Cinderella. She is the bravest woman I've known. She's the one who has taught me, and perhaps all of us here, a lesson about human dignity." He approached Emily, knelt to be at her and Lily's height, extended his hand, gently wiping the stain on her cheek. Her beauty, though stained, radiated resilience. "She is part of my family," declared Gabriel, looking directly at his mother and Victoria. "And anyone who insults her is insulting this Gabriel Castle. Mrs. Helen looked at her son, the wound on his shoulder, and then at the small woman trembling but with a still firm gaze, protecting her little daughter. She sighed softly, and a smile of relief and acceptance appeared on her lips. She nodded slightly to Gabriel. Gabriel turned to look at Emily, his gaze softer than ever. "The agreement is over, Emily," he said in a low voice, audible only to them. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She knew this day would come, but she didn't expect it to affect her so much. She bowed her head, preparing to stand and leave because Gabriel took her hand firmly, holding her. "I no longer want to pretend. I want it to be real." "What did you say?" Emily raised her head abruptly, her eyes wide with astonishment. She looked at Gabriel, who was still kneeling before her despite the wound on his shoulder still bleeding through the provisional bandage. Around them, the crowd had dispersed, leaving a rare private space amid the party mess. Lily curled up in her mother's arms, her big round and innocent eyes looking at the wounded hero. Emily's beauty, even in that moment of confusion, had not diminished. "I said I no longer want to pretend," repeated Gabriel, his voice grave and sincere, very different from the cold and calculating tone of the everyday businessman. He extended his hand, gently stroking the strands of hair stuck by sweat on her forehead. "The original agreement was to protect you and help me get out of trouble, but what just happened, what I felt when I saw you in danger, that wasn't acting. Emily, no, this is one of the truest romantic stories I've experienced." Emily backed away a little, as if his confession scared her more than Richard's dangers. She looked at his wound, then her stained evening dress, symbol of the glamorous but thorny world she had just tasted. "No," she shook her head with a trembling voice. "You're just agitated. You just saved my daughter and me. That's compassion, it's help, not love." "It's not." She stood up, pulled Lily closer to herself, creating physical distance between them. "Gabriel, look at us. You're the castle heir, I'm a waitress, a single mother with many economic difficulties. Today you see me brave, but tomorrow, the day after, when the enthusiasm passes, you'll see me as a burden again. I don't want my daughter to have to endure disrespect like tonight never again." Gabriel frowned and stood up, the pain from the wound stabbing him, but he ignored it. He approached, blocking her path. "Do you think I saved you out of kindness?" he asked with a serious voice. "Emily, I've known hundreds of women from good families, beautiful, rich like Lucy, but none dared stand in front of a room full of power to defend their dignity like you. No one dared face someone with bad intentions to protect a child like you. You've taught me that a person's value doesn't lie in the bank account. But I have nothing to offer you today." Emily broke into tears, the tears held all night now bursting. "I don't want you to use your kindness to bind me. I'm afraid that if I depend on you, I'll forget how to fend for myself. And if you leave, I'll crumble. Please. If you were Emily, after so many vicissitudes and this status difference, would you dare accept Gabriel's love immediately, or would you feel fear and need more time to overcome the fear and low self-esteem? Share your thoughts." Gabriel remained silent for a moment, looked deeply into her eyes, understanding the fear and immense dignity of this small woman. He knew that if he used money or power to force her to stay at that moment, he would lose her forever. He extended his hand but didn't touch her. He left his hand suspended in the air, an invitation, not an imposition. "I don't want to bind you, Emily. I want you to choose me," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I don't want you to depend on me, I want us to depend on each other. I want you to fend for yourself, to build the life you dream. God, but give me the chance to be by your side, to protect you and Lily from storms when challenges come, not because you need me to help you, but because I need you for my life to have meaning." Just at that moment, Helen approached. She had completely changed her attitude, looked at Emily no longer with curiosity but with silent respect. "Daughter," said Helen, her voice still authoritative but with less harshness. "My son is right. The castle house may have a lot of money, but we lack something you have in abundance. True courage. You've shown us that dignity isn't bought with money." Emily. Victoria, standing next to her mother, also nodded slightly, sketching a rare smile. "I was wrong about you, Emily, and I apologize for my earlier words." The recognition from his family made the last wall of defense in Emily's heart waver. She looked at Lily. The girl held Gabriel's pinky tightly, looking at him with eyes of absolute trust. Children have the sharpest intuition. The girl felt safe next to this man. Emily took a deep breath, wiping her tears. She looked up and looked at Gabriel. "I need time," she said with a soft but firm voice. "I want to pay off my debts with my own effort. I want to open a small bakery as I've always dreamed, and not live off your financial help. God, I want that when I'm by your side, I am Emily Carter, the bakery owner, and not the Cinderella helped by the prince." Gabriel smiled, a radiant smile that lit up his tired face. "I'll wait," he said, "as long as necessary, as long as you promise not to push me away." "I promise," Emily nodded. Gabriel couldn't hold back anymore. He leaned in, kissed her forehead softly, and then Lily's curly hair. A moment of unusual peace amid the party rubble full of incidents. Then, he whispered, "Let me take you home, but not to the old apartment, to my safe place, just for tonight, all right? Until you find a new place to live." Emily looked at the sincerity in his eyes, nodded. "All right, just for tonight." 1 month later, the bright and warm morning sun of Mexico City illuminated the rustic newly hung wooden sign. Lily's Sweet Bakery. Emily stood in front of the small shop on a quiet street in Polanco. Although it wasn't the most expensive location, it was where she herself had chosen and paid the rent. She wore a cream-colored apron, her hair neatly tied, her face radiant without a trace of fatigue or fear. The radiant beauty of a beautiful woman had returned, full of life. She smelled the aroma of freshly baked bread and vanilla coming from inside. This was a dream, built with her few remaining savings plus a small bank loan she had had to apply for and process over the last 3 weeks. Not a single penny from Gabriel's pocket. She had kept her promise to herself. "Mom, a customer has arrived," resonated Lily's clear voice from inside. Emily turned. A familiar silver sports car stopped abruptly at the door. Gabriel got out, not wearing an elegant suit as usual but jeans and a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, looking younger and more approachable than ever. He opened the back door, and hand in hand with Lily, he came out. Today was the opening day, and he had arrived early to pick up the little one from kindergarten and help her mother. Lily wore a floral little dress with a bouquet of sunflowers almost as big as her and ran into her mother's arms. "Congratulations, boss," Gabriel smiled widely, following his daughter. He leaned in and kissed Emily's cheek softly. "You did it. I'm very proud of you." "Thank you," Emily smiled, feeling her heart pound. "If it weren't for your encouragement, I wouldn't have dared apply for the loan." Gabriel didn't stand idly by. "Thank you." He rolled up his sleeves even more and headed to the coffee bar. "Well, today I'll be the special waiter of the store. I hope the boss doesn't despise my coffee-making skills." The first customers began to enter, surprised to see the famous millionaire Gabriel Castle carrying trays of pastries, cleaning tables, and chatting cheerfully with everyone. There was no longer distance or coldness, only the image of a happy man next to the woman he admired, creating one of the most meaningful millionaire stories. At noon, another luxury car stopped. Helen and Victoria got out. Helen still maintained her elegance, but the look in her eyes toward Emily had softened a lot. "Almond cookies," ordered Helen as she sat at the table. "I hear it's your specialty. We'll see if they're as good as those made by the castle chef." Emily personally brought the plate of cookies, waiting anxiously. Helen took a small bite, chewing slowly, then nodded, the corners of her lips curving into a satisfied smile. "Delicious," she said. "They have the taste of dedication." "Very good, Emily." Victoria winked at Emily and then turned to help Lily draw on the menu chalkboard. At the end of the day, when the last customer left, the sunset dyed the entire street golden. Gabriel led Emily to the long bench in front of the store. Lily had fallen asleep on the inside sofa, exhausted after a day as a little assistant. Gabriel took Emily's calloused hand, gently kissed the back of her hand. "Emily Carter," said Gabriel, his voice grave and serious. "I'll keep waiting. I don't promise our life will be a fairy tale. I don't promise there won't be storms. But I promise I'll always cover you when challenges come. Emily, I promise I'll respect your dreams and that I'll always love you and Lily with all my heart. I hope someday you'll accept me as part of your and Lily's life, not just as a companion but also as family." Emily looked at Gabriel, the man who had accompanied her through the trials to find this peace. She no longer feared. She knew she deserved to be happy. "I believe you, Gabriel," she whispered, tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. "And I'll never push you away." And then, Gabriel smiled a radiant smile, leaned in, kissed her forehead softly, and then Lily's tousled hair. A rare moment of peace amid the rubble of the night full of incidents. The shadows of the two merged under the dim streetlight. Inside the bakery, Lily's drawing stuck on the wall was clearly visible. 3 people holding hands, Mom, Uncle Gabriel, and Lily under a colourful home. The desperate kiss in the restaurant lobby that day saved Emily from a problem, but it was her own dignity, resilience, and selfless love that opened a promising future for her life. From the difficulties of the past, together they built a solid foundation, not with money or status but with trust and sincerity. Happiness awaited them, a journey they would discover together step by step. The warm sunlight bathing Emily and her daughter's small bakery closed a fictional story full of ups and downs, but its echo left in our hearts a deep resonance about the true meaning of giving and receiving. This story is not just a journey in search of love but a humanitarian declaration. The greatest salvation doesn't come from someone extending a hand to pull you out of the mud but from standing by your side, giving you strength to rise with pride on your own. Delve into Gabriel's transformation. A man who used to use money to solve all problems finally chose to stand behind the bar, taking a step back so the woman he loved could shine. The act of storing his powerful credit card in exchange for patient waiting taught us a profound philosophical lesson. A person's ultimate wealth doesn't lie in the power they wield but in the humility and respect they have for others' dreams. He chose to accompany instead of protect, transforming love into encouragement instead of possession. And Emily, our beauty, her most radiant beauty didn't reside in the party evening dress but in the sweat on her forehead when baking the first batches of bread with her own hands. She rejected the rose-covered shortcut to choose the rocky path of self-sufficiency. That choice is the most eloquent testimony of human dignity. Material poverty is only a temporary test, but poverty of self-esteem is a permanent collapse. It was that resilience that took this story beyond mere romantic story tropes or millionaire stories, reaching the hearts of those yearning to affirm themselves. After seeing it, what reflections arise in you? Have you ever rejected easy help to protect your honor? Or from what country are you following this inspiring story? Share your story or where you live in the comments. Thank you. If you believe a person's value is measured by their strength, not their goods, leave a comment. I choose dignity. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video so that together with Stories with Magic, we ignite the flames of faith and spread noble human values. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next moving stories.